Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today I am here with Joey Versaw. I don't really know how to describe what we're doing today.
We are giving everybody a little walk through fashion doll history. And even though we're not experts ourselves, we're both big doll collectors and we've both been doing it for many years. It's not going to be the Bible of fashion dolls. We will miss a few things probably here and there, and you can put it in the comments what we've missed. But I think it's a pretty good size list, and I think that we've hit all of the major marks. And I think it'll be a great way for even new collectors and old collectors to see what they've been missing. This is all done in love. And if you have a childhood doll that's your favorite, and we happen to not like it, don't take it personally.
I thought it was worth mentioning that fashion dolls have been around for a very, very, very long time.
Way predating our first what we're starting. I think we're kind of going with the modern, like
Yes,
plastic fashion dolls. So yeah, there's been French and German fashion dolls from 100
Yep.
years back, and
I've seen one
yeah,
from ancient Egypt, so yeah.
yeah. So I think we're kind of just starting from mid-century. The year is 1955. And Madame Alexander has released a doll called Sissy. She was actually used in advertisements for like Yardley lavender perfume, I believe it was. And even household goods like washer and dryers and stuff. Even though she was still baby doll faced, she still was very much a woman fashion doll. So I thought she was important to mention and to start us out. Pulova Famosa, or no, excuse me, sorry, I got ahead of myself. 1955, Bild Lilli. So yes, Bild Lilli, and she's kind of where it really all started. And she was not a doll that was meant for children. She was kind of like a silly gift. She wasn't necessarily targeted towards kids or anything. She was kind of like a saucy, fun. She was a comic strip character. And I believe how the story goes is that Ruth Handler was on vacation and came across the Bild Lilli doll. And that's where, Barbie came into. And we're not going to go into, you can watch the series on Barbie and the making of, and the rip-offs and the stealing and the whatever, but this is how it all began. Yes. It began with Bild Lilli. I remember like in 2000 being on eBay and seeing a Bild Lilli still in her tube and everything, and I was bidding on her, and she sold for like $120, and I got outbid at the last minute. And I thought, that's crap. Like, why is that clone doll worth that much money, And I thought at the time that was crazy, right? And now I'm like, wish I would have had that doll. I have had a little 7.5 inch or 7-inch Bild Lilli. Yep. So I've had one of those in person. To 1958 Pulova by Famosa.
Yes.
And I believe that's a Spanish doll, correct?
Yes. But I thought she should be included because she's
she's
gorgeous.
Fabulous.
Yes.
Yeah, she almost looks like a drag queen. I love those hands, and like she's a fantastic doll.
They do come in different sizes, I think, like
Lilli
did.
There's small ones and bigger ones, yeah.
I think she looks like Sophia Loren.
She does.
Yeah.
She does have that vibe. I think that's what is very attractive about her. I guess 1959 is Barbie, the all-time classic. And I guess even though she wasn't necessarily where it all began, she's kind of where it all began at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we all know way too much about Barbie, and we love Barbie. And she spawned this insane amount of fashion dolls. Every company was scrambling to have their own Barbie. In 1961, we have Mark's Miss 17 doll. She looks more like a Bild Lilli to me than she does a Barbie. Yeah, she was a larger doll. And she had a wardrobe. And she came in a bathing suit and a cape and a sash and a crown like a prom queen. Liz Carol Brent, 61. You're right. I did skip over her. And there's a reason for that. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, for a second there, I was like, oh, what?
1961 Liz Carol Brent doll. I think she was sold under those two names. I think that she was Liz, and I think that she was also Carol Brent. And then in 1962, I dealt Tammy. Barbie was controversial, and they thought that she was a little too sexy in her form. And so from what I've read, Tammy was kind of like Ideal's take on trying to give people exactly what they wanted and also compete with Barbie, but by doing it like, look, we have the sweeter, softer, less sexual fashion doll for your child. And she was hugely popular in Japan. I believe that there's Japanese exclusives of Tammy and stuff. She was, I think, a very cute doll. I've always liked Tammy. I think I thought she was weird with her neck joint, how it's like fully sculpted onto her head, and then at the bottom of the chest. And then in 1962, we also got Unita's Miss Suzette or Wendy Ward. And I've not had a Wendy Ward. It looks like a Wendy Ward had inset open and closed eyes, as Miss Suzette was a painted eye fashion doll. And I've had probably about 10 Miss Suzettes over the years. Oh, wow. And she's gorgeous. But now she's very expensive now. She has a very weird leg joint. And a lot of times, I think a reason too why they're kind of rare is because they broke so easily. So we spin out in this like insane amount of fashion dolls at the time that are coming out that a lot of people consider clones. But if we want to be real, Barbie could be considered a clone of Bild Lilli. We get dolls like Babs, which was a total direct knockoff of Barbie with even a black and white swimsuit and glasses. We have dolls like Royal Colony and the E.G. Babette doll. There was a Marks Marlene, a Debbie Drake, which was actually a super cool doll because she was the first fully jointed fashion doll. She was actually a real person. She was a Jane Fonda, like a workout lady of the 50s. She also went under the name Polly Pose, which was just the normal fashion doll name. And she was incredibly full of joints. And then we got Wendy Elite. We got like Hong Kong Lilli. So we have in 1963 American Characters Tressie doll. And she was an interesting doll because she was a grow hair doll. You had a little key, I think, that you would stick into her back. I don't remember.
In her back, yeah. And then she had a button in the belly.
In the same year, 1963, we got Poppy by American Character, which I actually didn't know that much about. I've never had one. But when I was doing the first Mary Magpie dolls, somebody had photographed Mary in a bunch of Poppy wigs. And I was like, what is this Poppy? And so I, looked into it, found out who she was, what she was all about. But she's very interesting. She just kind of pops apart and you can I think to design clothes, or she didn't ever appeal to me.
She's not pretty.
No. And she kind of reminds me of the Japanese midge. Face. She just doesn't appeal to me. Yeah. And then we have in 1963 Little Chaps by Remco. And I always thought that they were hideous dolls. They look like something that if you went into a museum of American history or something, and you're like, this is a family from the 1960s or whatever. Yes. It'd be like, oh, cool, But the dolls themselves, to me, just were very hard looking, and their proportions seemed weird to me.
It looks to me like they're all men. Even the women look like men. Yeah. And it's like the dads just put on wigs and stuff.
And their littlest daughter, God bless her, Libby, she definitely looks like the mom, had an affair with her brother or something. They're just not, I don't love them.
Oh, poor things.
1963 or 64, excuse me, Brenda Starr. She was like a sleep eye doll with a bubble cut, and she wasn't to me anything special, but she existed. In 1964, we have the Gigi Millie.
Yes.
And I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
I say Miley de Gigi, but I'm not sure if that's right.
I didn't grow up with her, so I have very much respect for people that grew up with her and love her. But my initial thoughts when I saw this doll is that they took a Midge doll and made her even uglier. I didn't understand the appeal. She once again had a scrunched face with a large forehead. The rooting job of her hair was like a plug here, plug here, plug here, you know. I just looked at her and I was like, the fashions are fabulous. They're very of the time. The boxing's very classy. Her name's very cute. But the doll, if we were looking at the toy shelf now, we would be like, good God, like, you know.
French Brunhilde.
Exactly. Yes. In 1964, we have, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right again, Willy Wildebra. And she is stunning. I love this doll. When I first saw her, I think it was years ago on Flickr, Nav had a collection of her. She's got a very like kind of a harsh look, but in a very cheeky, characterized way. And so I think she's really fabulous. I feel like she's the kind of woman where if you came to her, she would be like, she would help you hide a body, you know? And there's an indie fashion doll artist that is right now, as we speak, putting sneak peek pictures up of a resin version of this doll. I know with a lot of those dolls that these indie fashion dolls are coming out with, what happens is that the license is so old and never gets renewed. And so those dolls are kind of like game for anybody to redo. Maybe they have to change the name or something, but they can use those molds because they haven't been, the patenting and trademark is way done, hasn't been renewed. So they get to kind of have a rebirth if someone decides to put that time and energy into them, which I think is very cool. Then we have the 1964 American character Mary Makeup.
I love Mary Makeup.
Yeah, because of her gimmick of being a doll to put makeup on. I think maybe that's why when you find her now, a lot of times her face is off or barely there. I've done a few repaints on them because they have a really great canvas because their face is really big. In 1965, we have Ideal's Mitzi, which again, I feel is like an identical ripoff of Barbie. She's cool. I like her. I think she was quality because Ideal's a very quality company, you know. 1965 Ideal Misty and grown-up Tammy. I think that Misty was gorgeous. And they used her that same year and that same sculpt to do Samantha from Bewitched.
Yes, yes. And they also did, later on they did the comic book heroines.
Yeah.
I'm like a huge fan of Ideals.
I found out within the past few years, there was a man and son team in Spain that did a lot of sculpting for different companies. And they were the ones that made most of the sculpts for Ideal. And they also did Fergus sculpts.
Oh my goodness.
So very cool. They were very, very talented. They did stuff for Mattel as well, like Giggles and Saucy and some of those really interesting 60s dolls with those very character faces. Then we go to the 1965 Petra von Plasty. I know that she was very popular in Europe So I'm sure a lot of people in Europe grew up with her. I know Von Plasty did quite a few fashion dolls, and some of them are very beautiful. I don't think she's one of them, but some of them were.
I think it's worth noting that Barbie didn't really take off in European countries. I think she did have a presence in those countries, but she didn't really take off until like the 80s.
Right.
Which is when I think Mattel really started pushing with all their licenses and all that stuff.
So 1966, Karaz, an artist that did a lot of artwork for like Playboy, I believe, like kind of like naughty, very stylized artwork. They did a doll of her. She is so far away from what we kind of considered the fashion doll at the time. She had a whole different, very stylized, you know, torso and look on her face, and she was a very tiny doll. Like, I think she's one of those you either love or you don't like. And there's a lot of people that don't like her, and I understand that because she's a very odd looking doll, but I love her. I think she's great.
I think she would have taken off like crazy if she was released in the 70s. I think.
Yeah, that's what she totally gives me, that more 70s kind of like free love and disco feeling. 1966 France, Caprice. And she was like kind of like a Brigitte Bardot, and she's gorgeous. I didn't have experience with her, and I've never had one in my hands. We'll talk about it later, but both Nav and Julian used molds of Caprice to make their new fashion dolls, or were inspired by their molds were inspired by her.
I've never been a fan of Caprice. I know that everyone loves her, and I'm more of a Marley DeGigi fan than a Caprice fan. I just find her a bit plain.
Yeah.
And also
she kind of looks like a playmate to me, like a Playboy playmate. Like she kind of just feels like there's not really anything going on in there. And like, you know, she's blonde. She wasn't a doll that I like would die to have or anything. But I definitely think she's very pretty and she's cute, you know.
I also have like seen close-up pictures, and she looks quite crudely made. Like it's very rough around the edges and stuff.
Yeah, and her rooting as well. But then in the same year, we get Patina, which is completely crazy, completely out of the blue. Like, what is this? A poodle fashion doll? Fabulous. Everybody wanted that. Like, obviously, it was obvious.
Yeah.
We needed to mix these two together, and we are gonna have a hit on our hands. She lasted 1 year, but she was fabulous. So, you know, I think they're fabulous. I love the art more than the doll. I think that the art that they did for her was like, I would put it up on my walls. Props for stepping out of the box and making something so wild and fantasy and crazy.
Again, I think ahead of their time. I remember stuff like this all the time when I was a kid. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but when I was a kid, there was these dolls called Catwalk Kitties.
Oh, yes.
Oh my God.
I even thought, it's funny you said that, because last night I was like, oh, those damn cat dolls. I don't think those are on our list. And then I was like, that's okay. We don't need to add them. We have enough. Nobody needs to know about Catwalk Kitties. But now they do. Now it's in the video. So that's good. 1967. So personal favorite of mine, Lady Lika. By Takara. I've been a huge Japanese fashion doll fan forever, and love Lika. And Lady Lika, what is not to love? She is like the sweetest, cutest little like early 70s, late 60s, early 70s kind of mod teen. Super long hair. I've had a couple of her through my hands, and actually I have her best friend Junko here with me right now. She's wearing Francie's suit. I love these dolls. I think that they were so very sweet. They feel like they have character, and I connect with them. I like them.
She is really cute, but I can't afford her.
They're expensive. Yeah. You kind of have to have priorities with doll collecting, and that's very hard sometimes. We still have 1967's Princess Grace doll, which I think She was a very unusual face sculpt, and I didn't like it. It was very much like Petra von Plasty's Peggy and Maddie Maud, but it wasn't as cheeky smiley, but she still was like cheeky, and a lot of her were made, I think, in the UK and in America, because she's all over the place in the UK and here. 1968, we might as well go to Maddie Maud. She might be Princess Grace. They may have been the same company. Yeah, because they have the same kind of look, like the same sculptor sculpted them or something, and they're both ugly. But yeah,
I'm not a fan of Maddie Maud.
I'm not a fan at all.
I do
love the color. I love all the bright colors and all the, like, you know, cheaply made fashions. I like the idea of the looks of them. 1968, Takara Lena. She's a very obscure and interesting doll, but she is so cool. Her fashions are so 60s mod and beautiful and well made. And Takara was in Japan, is a very quality company, and she's not my taste face wise, but there is a story behind it. She was supposed to be the Barbra Streisand doll. When all of that fell through, she just became Lena. I know Barbara was hugely popular, but so interesting that Japan, you know, maybe because she was this famous American celebrity singer, I think she was like 15 inches tall.
Am I right in thinking that she was also meant to be like a sewing model?
A mannequin.
Yeah.
Her legs do not move. Her legs are in one, you know, mold, and then I think she has a twist waist and her arms move.
Yeah, I might just add in a few dolls there. So obviously there were the fashion doll by Simplicity and all that. They were designed more for sewing.
I could not find an exact year for this next doll, but Bonnie Blue by Perfecta, and she's a very cute and interesting, very 60s stylized doll, and she was you know, used for advertisement. I think she was originally a comic sketch in the advertisement, and then the company made the doll. And 1969 there was a doll called Flatsy. It was a small, more childlike doll that was flat, and that's that. That's what it said on the box.
Oh, really?
And yes, very cute. And she had tiny, teeny little breasts, and she was flat otherwise. Just another weird doing LSD, designing dolls, you know.
Oh my God.
Just another day, and I think they're adorable. I think they're super cute. Let's see. So then, Miss Flair, she lasted a long time. Yeah, she has been around forever.
I remember her when I was a kid.
Flair and Sandy were really big in the 80s, like late 70s through the like mid 80s. They were big, but they've been being made, you know, for a very long time. I remember as a little kid going to, like, we didn't have dollar stores, but like that type of store. And she was on a peg for, like, you know, 88 cents or something. Like, she just was a very cheap fashion doll.
Are we going to just throw Twiggy in for just a quick second? Because she's Mattel.
We have Twiggy, Mattel. I think I put her accidentally in the bottom of the list because she was an afterthought, which she shouldn't have been. Mattel's Twiggy. But Twiggy was all the rage. She ruined the rest of the world because she did. Because then we have this norm of what a woman's body is supposed to look like. I'm not blaming her as a person, but
I don't think she could help it. But
well, no, that's just like, that was her body. She couldn't control what the industry decided to do. Okay, Dollykin. Jumping back to Dollykin. Rewind. You need a Dollykin because everyone needs a Dollykin.
Really?
She was very cool because she was once again jointed a lot like how Debbie Drake was jointed. She had all of the, you know, poses. She had a very sweet face that reminded me a lot of like Miss Suzette. Even though they're cool because they're so poseable, they don't really hold the pose and they're a little clunky.
I'm really into Action Man at the moment, and I think they used Dollykin for Action Girl. And there was also, on that note, I think in the 60s, GI Nurse.
Okay, so we'll jump back to Topper Dawn.
Yes.
And the UK's Pippa.
Yeah.
And those were 6-inch, I think 6-inch or 6.5-inch fashion dolls. Dawn was incredible. I love Dawn. For something that small, they were very quality, but they were able to sell them cheap. It was a lot more affordable for parents on that smaller scale size. The girls still had the thrill of having a fashion doll like Barbie. They didn't take up half the room. There was a lot of drama with that company, and they never recovered. But Dawn died, and it's sad, you know. I think they were very cool. I think that Pippa in the UK went longer.
That kind of size of doll continued on throughout the years.
Yeah.
Because I remember even Polly Pocket became that size when I was a kid, and there was also the Lil Brats
model
and
agency and stuff. And then let's see, Ideal Chrissy. Chrissy is kind of one of those classic dolls that a lot of people from the era, they just remember that redheaded grow hair doll that their younger brother swung around his head, you know, by her ponytail. Again, an ideal doll and super quality. And they actually call her Beautiful Chrissy. So you can't say she's not beautiful because it's in her. And then the Ferga Ultimata dolls, they are stunning, like absolutely stunning. Some of the most, to me, some of the most beautiful dolls. And they're so weird because they're kind of childlike, but they're fashion doll women. I think as a kid, you don't question it and you just connect because they're beautiful and whatnot.
Yeah, the sculpts are stunning for Ultimata. I can see that one behind you. Oh my god.
Yes. Yes.
I want that so bad.
Yes.
Give it.
Yes. I think they're gorgeous.
And the illustrations are gorgeous and the fashions are gorgeous. The whole, Italian, obviously. But,
Italian. Beautiful.
I was talking to someone and they said in Italy, the culture was more family focused.
Right.
And so fashion dolls did not sell very well. And so they started releasing all of these baby-faced fashion dolls. Last one for the 60s, Sandy by Toys, 1969. She was 45 centimeters tall. She was made by Toys, which I believe was another Spanish company. From what I can tell from pictures, she's made of that cheap hollow clone plastic.
Right.
Yeah, she was plus size, and I just thought of another one. There was Sophie de Peinette, another French one. So Cindy did come along earlier.
Light up eyes that are not going to scare the little girls. They're very cute. They're not my thing at all. Ideals, Tiffany Taylor, Migo Cher. I would run around the house, but Barbie killed them. People don't go on eBay and drive up the price. I didn't even want to talk about her on this video, but